Many of you might have heard the word companion planting. Well, what is that? Folks, let's unpack it very simply. Companion planting is when one plant and another plant enjoy living together. The most common one that we all know of, and we've probably read of in magazines, is basil planted next to tomatoes, because sweet basil planted next to tomatoes makes your tomatoes sweeter. When thinking about this holistic way of gardening, we want to think of three things. Number one, we want plants that are going to attract pollinators. Number two, we want plants that are going to act as natural pest control elements. Yeah. And number three, we want to create an environment for beneficial insects and a habitat for them to enjoy. Let's take a look at lettuce. What could be the problems with lettuce? Well, aphids could be number one, and certainly we'd want to plant attractants. So what are we talking about? Pollinators. Remember, when you've got pollinators, they are going to come along and want to also eat the insects. So with the lettuce, a great companion to plant with them would be any type of chives. So garlic chives, onions, that works incredibly well. Now, interestingly enough, the garlic chives or ordinary chives are actually an insect trap. What does that mean? Well, that means that aphids love coming to these guys. I guarantee you, aphids will come to your garlic chives or your onions or your ordinary chives before they go to your lettuce or your tomato plant or whatever you've got growing in your garden. Remember, everything starts with the soil, guys, and a healthy soil means healthy plants. So let's make sure that we're using the right stuff. Now, if you pop into your local builders and you happen to get your hands on what they call their premium potting mix, then grab a bag, because it's got everything that it needs in there. If you're buying an ordinary bag of potting soil, then follow these steps and you'll have a seriously pimped up potting soil. Number one is I want to add in some palm peat. Now, in terms of volumes of palm peat, folks, you can add 1 part palm peat to 5 parts of potting soil. Number two, I want to add in a few handfuls of bone meal. Now, bone meal creates good root development. And the thing with bone meal is, because it's a great organic product, you can never add too much. And then a handful or two of Atlantic Bio-Ocean. That is going into a medium-sized trug. So it's about 1 full bag of potting soil that I've emptied into here in terms of the ratios that you're looking for. Now we give it a good mix. First up, here is my container. Guys, if you're looking at a pot and it's this big, upsize it. Go the next size, because you'll be sorry once you get home and you start adding in all your bits, because it's space and volume that allows you to combine various plants. Right, second step is I either use a bit of netting. This is ordinary shade netting that we've just cut a little piece off to pop at the bottom over the drainage holes, which stops the soil from falling through. Of course, as an alternative, you could just use a bit of gravel. Rightio, guys, next step is we start planting. So what we're going to do is take our trug with our beautiful mixture. We're going to fill it up halfway into this container. Right, number one is one of my major plants in this container, which is an absolute winner as an edible, as a plant with many uses. This is called pineapple sage. Okay, so my one plant is in, oh, and the smell, I wish you could smell through that screen. Guys, next up is that I'm just going to fill in with a bit of my potting soil mixture, because the other plants I'm going to be adding are not going to be that big at all. So we've ticked beauty, yes, and attracting birds. All right, what next do I want to tick? Pollinators, right. So in terms of pollinators, you cannot go wrong with using a calendula. Now, what do you do with calendulas? So take the petals, sprinkle them over white rice whilst you've cooked it, and your rice turns that beautiful turmeric orange. We all know how expensive saffron is. You get that same look with using calendula petals. Now we need to put in something that's truly edible for us, and that of course could be an array of things. And what I love about these little 6-pack of lettuce is that I can have something beautiful and yet still incredibly practical. So a little lettuce plant in there. For a bit of height and interest, I'm going to add in a beautiful green mustard. And within 2 weeks, these little guys would have doubled in size and you can start picking already for your salads. The one box that we haven't ticked is pest control. Now, how do plants work as pest control? Well, this little guy, which is the humble nasturtium, or die kappertjie, works brilliantly. We call these traps, and I'm going to pop in one nasturtium over here, and I guarantee you that if there are aphids around, the aphids are going to go to this guy first and not bother going to my salvia or my calendula or my lettuce or my mustard. And of course, because we can always have a bit of fun with gardening, we can add in a few more edibles, which is this little viola, because remember, the flowers are edible. And that, my friends, is a pot full of goodness. Now, when it comes to hanging baskets, it's a known fact that we're trying to put 5, 6, 7 plants, even one large plant into such a limited space. This means that the plant can undergo stress because everyone is looking for a bit of moisture and a bit of space to grow. And one of the biggest issues is moisture, in fact. So this is my standard potting mix that I showed you a little bit earlier, but I'm adding in a secret ingredient. And this, folks, is called Hydro Cache. What it is, it's a water retaining granule, which means I add this, and by the way, it's got carbon in it as well. So I add a bit of this dry into my potting mix, okay? And what happens is quite amazing. As I add water to my Hydro Cache, the little granules start swelling and they've taken up all the water. Amazing. Now this has got our drainage over here, but what I am going to do is I'm going to add in a bit of gravel because I want that layer to come up to the top here. If I do not cover these 4 holes with a form of gravel or even a bit of shade cloth, the soil might even block these because these holes are small. Or alternatively, if it's a very fine mix, the soil will actually pour through. Now we add in a little bit of our pimped mix. All right, as my center plant, which is going to be beautiful rosemary. Remember, rosemary also gets a beautiful flower. And therefore, we know that we have immediately got a pollinator here as well. Next up, I want to use some beautiful Dianthus. Now, I'm ticking off the fact that this is also a pollinator. We can eat these, and sure, from the pretty factor, it's #1. Next up, we need to find something that's going to be the pest control. What's going to stop all the hohos and nunus from coming along here? Well, that, my friends, is when we are going to be using the leeks. Now remember, this could be leeks, this could be onions, this could be chives, because we said earlier that aphids are attracted to these. So if you are going to have hohos, they're going to come straight here, and the best way to deal with them is simply just to squash them. Of course, every gardener needs more than one parsley. Guys, parsley is not only for potato salad, it packs a punch of nutrition in the leaves in the form of either teas or simply just chopping it up and using it raw as a garnish. And then a few violas that I'm just going to pop in here to give it a little punch. And there, my friends, is a beautiful combination, ticking all our boxes: pollinators, insect control, edible, yummy, an environment for beneficial insects, and of course, high on sexy. And the last thing, of course, is to give them a very good watering. Folks, that is your 101 on container planting with edibles, plus taking into consideration companions. It's a holistic way of gardening, and I hope that you have enjoyed this. Remember, everything I've used is available at your local builders, either in store or online. Also, check out the blog for more content on how to be a more eco-friendly gardener, a more conscious gardener for you and the environment. Get to builders and get it done.